Hi, and welcome to Art with Mrs. Torres. Today we are going to be doing a project about a bird. I am a big bird lover. My name is Robin. That's my first name, and Robin is the type of bird. In my yard, I have a lot of different kinds of feeders, and one of the birds that comes to my yard a lot is a blue jay or a scrub jay, and he is a beautiful, magnificent blue color. So that's the inspiration for my bird, but you can make your bird any color you'd like. So in some of the pictures, we will be doing a fall theme, and these leaves have been falling from the trees. But here in Southern California, it is 85 to 90 degrees. It doesn't feel like fall, but nature knows it's fall, and the leaves are starting to change and fall around my yard. So let's get ready to do our art project. I hope you enjoy it. It's going to be a lot of fun. Hello, and welcome to Art with Mrs. Torres. So today you are probably wondering why I have a can of chilies in front of me. You've probably heard the word chili verde. Well, this is going to be chili birdies. That was really a bad joke. So we're going to be making 4 different birds today, and we're going to be using a can for tracing the body of our bird. So we're going to be going on a scavenger hunt in a minute to look in your house for a can that you can use. Before we begin, I want to show you the size of the paper that we're going to be working with. We're going to be taking a piece of paper, the kind that comes out of the printer, or if you have nicer paper, that's fine too. And in a minute, we'll be folding it into quarters. And so what you're going to need to find is a can that can fit inside that section of paper once we fold it in 4. So most average size soup cans or like mandarin orange cans or any kind of canned vegetable will fit great. This chili can is a little bit smaller. That's what I used for mine. It gave me just a little bit more room for drawing some detail around the bird. The only kind of cans I've noticed that don't work are the really big, large cans of like kidney beans or Progresso soup is kind of a large can. So if you have those big cans of Progresso soup, you might want to try a different can. And if you don't have any cans around your house, don't worry about it. You can just fake it and make some circles with your hand or trace around the glass or something like that. So these are the items you're going to need. A can, you're going to need a pencil, you're going to need a Sharpie marker, you're going to need your eraser like we always do, or you can use the end of your pencil. And the last thing you're going to need is something to color with. I just used Crayola crayons. I stuck them in my little cups like I normally do, but markers will also work if you want to use those as well. So pause the video. You're going to get paper. Remember, the paper that comes out of your printer is fine. A can, your pencil, your eraser, your marker, something to color with, and then meet me back here, and we're going to do our project, okay? See you in just a minute. All right, welcome back. You've gathered a can that you're going to be tracing later. You've gathered your pencil, your eraser, your crayons. So the first thing we're going to do is fold our paper. So we're going to take our paper and we're going to place it in the middle of the table tall this direction, and we're going to fold it from the left side over to the right. Now don't pick your paper up. I find it's much easier to fold the paper when it's flat on the table. I'm going to lay it down. I'm going to fold it over, and then I'm going to hold it with this hand still right here so it won't move. And I'm going to take my first finger, and from this area, I'm just going to slide it back, and the paper kind of pops right when you get to that middle section right here. I just slide it back. So once it gets a pop there, as long as you don't move these fingers, you can slide your finger down and slide it back up, and you get a nice clean fold. It usually helps your paper not to kind of shift when you're folding it. So once I folded it one direction, I'm going to pick it up from the bottom. The fold is still here on the left side, and I'm going to fold it now the opposite direction up to the top, line it up, hold my fingers down so it doesn't shift, slide my finger down the middle. It kind of pops right here in the middle, and then keeping my hand still right here at the top so it doesn't shift, I'm going to run my finger along the bottom to get that fold. And when I'm done, I've got 4 different sections of my paper. I'm going to pop it open so it's nice and flat in front of me. And now I'm going to go in and get my can. Now, I had given you 2 choices for cans when we had first started doing this. So one can would be like oranges or canned vegetables. Now you can see the difference when I lay these cans down. It's up to you whether you want to make a really fat bird with hardly any room on the side, or you can start with a can that's a little bit smaller, and then you'll have a little bit more room around the edge. So my picture here was done with this size can. That's the can I'm going to be using today. If you don't have that, and if you don't even have a can, you can trace around a drinking glass, or you can just kind of eyeball it. But we want it to look the same in each picture, the same bird. Okay, so now we're going to take our pencil, and when we draw our bird, we want our bird to be slightly up from the bottom of each square. I measure about 2 fingers up from the bottom. So I put my finger on the line here, that would be the bottom of this page, and I just tilt it like that, and then I set my can right there. And then you want it centered on both sides, and my camera's not going to pick that up very well on this corner here, but you might be able to see it better on this one here. So I kind of lay my fingers like this, 2 fingers at the bottom of that fold line and up, and then 1 or 2 fingers or whatever it is for the can that you use, evenly spaced here. And then I'm just going to set my finger on the can and then trace my pencil around the edge. I'm going to match it in each square. So I'm going to do the same thing, lining it up so that each circle is about the same in each square. 2 fingers up from the bottom. Now don't worry if the circle isn't perfectly round or if your pencil slips off, it doesn't matter. We're just using this to get the size of the body. We're not using it to make a perfect circle. And it's okay if one of your circles is a little higher than the other. Don't bother erasing any of that. Okay, I'm done with my can. I'm going to move it off to the side now. So the next thing we're going to be doing, I'm going to put my picture here in front, is we're going to start to design the first bird. Because once you draw your first bird, you want them to kind of match each time you draw them from here on out. So I'm going to begin by drawing his beak. So I'm going to find kind of the center of the circle and make a dot. That's where his beak is going to go. And I'm going to start the beak by making a really wide letter V. Now, I want the V wide because we're going to be coloring this with a crayon later and a Sharpie marker, and we want to be able to get our crayon into that space. Now, for the top of the beak, I'm just going to round the top of the beak like this. So it looks like a slice of pizza. And then for the eye, I'm just going to go right here at the top of the beak, and I'm going to draw a straight line up. I want his eyes to extend over the top of his head. So I'm just going to round it around like this, making really exaggerated eyes. And then once I get the size of it that I like, I can go ahead and kind of clean up the edges and make it more round. And then I'm going to match it on this side as best I can. It's never going to be exactly the same. And so once I draw it, I just kind of go back and look and decide if I need to make it lower or higher. And I'm going to match my wing on one side to the other side. So for my wing, I'm just going to make short wings. Kind of like side of, kind of looks like a flipper almost. And it also to me looks like a leaf. Have fall on the brain right now, even though it doesn't feel like fall where I live. It's hot in Southern California, but supposedly it's supposed to be fall. Okay, so once I'm done with that, I'm going to go in with my magic rub and erase the top of the circle that we used for the body out of the eyes. We don't need that anymore. And I'm going to now come down to the bottom here and place the legs kind of coming out from underneath him. I've got a little room here at the bottom. There's going to be snow because my first scene is winter. So I'm just going to go like this with a wobbly line like he's standing in snow. I'm not going to bother drawing circles for the snow or anything like that right now. I don't need that until the very end. And then I'm going to decide how I want to draw his feathers at the top. But remember, you kind of want to copy it in each picture. So I'm just going to keep it really simple by doing one rounded feather here at the top and then a couple on the side. And you could make more if you want to, but don't go too detailed because you have to draw it 4 times. So since this is winter, I'm going to put a scarf around his neck. So to do the scarf, I'm just going to draw a smile underneath his eyes, really close to his beak. So I'm just going to go like this and go right, tucked up underneath his eyes, across the whole body. And then to make it look like it's wrapped around his shoulder, I'm going to go a little wider than his shoulder. And then I'm going to bring it back again. So you want it to be the same width all the way across. And then I'm going to have it blowing in the wind. So I'm going to kind of lift it up in the air like this. Maybe flare it out a little bit on the edge. You don't have to, but you could also add tassels on the end if you want to once we're done drawing it. And then the other half of the scarf is coming around behind his body. So this one's going to come down here and coming out from the side. And you want to make sure these are about the same width. All right, last is to figure out where you want your bird to be looking. So he can be looking down, up, over to the side. I'm going to wait and do the eyes looking over to the side when I get to spring. So for now, I'm just going to have him looking up in the air. And I'm going to make a long oval. We're going to be going over this with Sharpie marker later. And then for the highlight, remember, I just make the letter U up at the top, making sure that's a big space, because remember, when we get to the Sharpie marker, it always shrinks up. So you want to make that space right there larger than you think it needs to be. It always shrinks up once the ink absorbs into the paper. All right, bird number 1 is almost done. The last thing is to give him some feathers at the bottom of his body. And you want to keep it simple. So you could just do a wavy line really quick, or you can go like this and make some big wide letter U's. Now don't make these small, make them big, because you have to do it 4 times. You want to keep this drawing moving pretty easily because you have to draw the same exact thing 4 times. Lastly, you're going to erase the part of the bird inside the scarf. So I'm going to go back with my magic rubber eraser, laying my hand down on the table so I don't wrinkle my picture. And I'm going to erase any lines that have to do with the bird that are inside the scarf. So I have my upper scarf and my lower scarf. This line should not be erased. You want to keep that line. That's the top scarf. All right, moving on to our second bird. We're going to go over here to block number 2. And so the next season after winter, we would move into spring. So spring is where all the wildlife starts to come alive in my garden. So that's where all the butterflies come out, lots of bees, birds. We already have a bird here. So I did birds, butterflies, and bees. All right, we're going to copy exactly what we did before. So we're going to come to the center of our circle, make a dot. Next thing from the dot, we're making the beak. Do you remember how we did that before? We started with a big wide letter V. Now remember, we're trying to match as close as we can what we did before. So you want each picture to look like the one you did prior to that. So you don't want to change it up too much. Next, we're going in with those eyes. And so I'm going to draw a straight line going up. I'm going to curve it around and bring it back down. So mine ends kind of in the middle of the beak here. So I want to match it on this side, just like I did on this side, best I can. And then do the same on the other side. I always end up making one eye bigger than the other. Look at how pointed that one is compared to this one. So I can just go in and clean it up. You want it to do your best at trying to match it to the other one, and then you want to erase any lines that might confuse you later. Erase the lines inside the eyes. We don't need those anymore. Erase the dot out of the middle of the beak if you haven't already done that. And then we're going to move on to doing the wings. So the wings start here at the side, just like we did on the first picture. Legs, simple, simple, simple. And then the feathers on top. I did one large one in the middle, two medium ones, and two smaller ones. And this time, since it's spring, I'm going to do grass. Now I'm just going to go up and make some large, jagged up and down lines. Now don't do these really skinny, make them large, because remember, you have to go over it with a marker later. And the next thing I'm going to draw are his eyes. So first off, you have to decide, in order for it to look like spring, what do you want to add in your picture? So if you're drawing a bee or a butterfly, those are smaller than the bird. You wouldn't want to draw another bird in the background because the bird would look too small compared to him. So I would choose some type of insect. You could draw maybe a branch of a tree right here with some buds on it that are blooming, because in spring, that's when the leaves start coming back onto the tree. So you could do that as well. So I'm just going to create a little bee right now. So I'm going to make it bigger than I think it needs to be, because remember, I've got to go in with my marker. And this time I'm going to make the bee kind of coming toward him. And I'm just keeping a really simple bee. I'm just going to make a big circle, straight line for the stinger, two very simple wings at the top. I'm not going to draw a face or anything right now because we're doing everything with a marker or crayons later. And so we want to keep things really loose and simple. I could add a butterfly over here on this side if I wanted to. I'm going to do a side view of a butterfly. So I'm going to start with a circle and then make a smile. And then copy the smile one more time. And then I'm going to draw a tall loop and then a little short loop next to it. I'm going to add a little curly antenna. And the last thing is to decide where this bird is going to be looking. So I could have this bird looking over here at the butterfly. I could have this bird looking over here at the bee. I could have the bird looking down at his nose, off to the side. It's up to you. So I'm going to have the bird noticing the bee. So his eyes are going to be placed over there. I'm going to draw that letter U nice and wide to remind me that I'm going to be coloring this part with my marker later, the underside. And then, since it is spring, I'm going to add a really simple flower and make a circle for the center and add some large petals with a very simple stem. Do the same here. You could also have the bird holding a flower. So I had him holding a flower in my picture here. So I could either tuck the wing in front like this, or keep the wing behind and just bring the flower in front. So it's up to you how you want to do that. If you're going to tuck the wing in front, you would erase the part of the body right there. Speaking of body, I want to go back in and add my letter U's around the side that match how I did it before, big letter U's. And then erasing the lines that I don't want anymore. Make sure you're always erasing either very gently or laying your other hand down on the table as you're erasing so that you don't wrinkle your paper. I'm going to put a little flower in his hand. You could add another flower off to the side if you want to. All right, bird number 2 is done. We're going to move down to summer. So for your summer bird, I was trying to figure out how could I make him look like summer. So first I thought maybe I would have him sweating and make the sun and the sky in the background bright orange and red, like he's super hot. But then I decided it would be more fun to make him standing in water. So this could be the beach or in a swimming pool. And instead of this being sweat, I just decided it would be water splashing. So once again, we're going to copy what we did before. So the first part of our picture is to find the center, make our beak a big wide V, round up the top, make sure it matches together as best you can. Then you're going to add that center line and continue your eyes just like we did before. So it gets a little easier each time you draw it. And when I'm designing a lesson, I do so many versions of it when I'm first beginning because I don't really know what I want to draw. So a lot of times I'll start out drawing it and then I don't like something about it and I'll start again. Sometimes I finish the entire drawing and something just doesn't look right and I'll change it and I'll do it again. But each time I redo my drawing, that is excellent practice. I don't get mad that I have to redo it. It's just practice. And then it helps me for the next time I draw it. It gets a little quicker. My shoulders and the wings. I'm not going to forget this time. I'm going to do the underside of his body with those wide letter U's. Top feather. I know you're thinking, what about the swimsuit? What about the swimsuit? Well, we're going to decide in just a minute whether you want to put a swimsuit on your bird or you want to put shorts and a t-shirt on or a tank top, a bikini. Depends on whether you're going to do all these birds being a girl bird or a boy bird. It's really up to you. So once you get your bird designed, don't forget the legs. The bird could be standing in sand. If he's at the beach, you could put a sand bucket here and maybe a shovel in his hand with a hot sun in the background. That's another idea. So just depending upon what you decide to draw. I'm going to draw my wavy line for water. And then you can decide whether you want your bird to have swim trunks on. So let's say you want to do a bikini. You could do triangles here, little small triangles. That could be the top. And then the bottom can be like this. And then you would erase those bumpy lines at the bottom. You put little ties on the end. And then this part will be a different color when we color it in. So that's an idea. Now, if you're going to do a girl, you could add big long eyelashes to it, to her. And then you want to decide where your bird's going to be looking. So just depending upon what's going on in your picture. So let's say you did a sand bucket and you have a crab right here or something. Maybe the bird is looking down at the crab. I'm going to have just the bird looking straight ahead. Big ovals up at the top. I'm going to put a sun up here. Keeping it simple. Some water splashes. Now, if you're making a splash, you want to make a point closest to the bird, and the rounded part is away from the bird. Like that. So the points are always pointing toward the bird to make it look like the bird is either sweating or water splashing on him. Okay, let's move on to the next picture. Okay, for our next picture, let's do our final one, which is fall. Now that is the season that I am filming this in. The first day of fall was this week. So we're going to be adding some fall leaves falling down. So we're going to first begin by drawing the bird. I'm going to make the dot in the middle, wide V, top of the beak, line at the top, large eyes, doing your best to match it on both sides. Let me put my picture over here. I'm a lefty, so I can't have anything on my left side because I keep bumping it. All right, once my eyes are drawn, then I'm going to go in and erase the head, top of that circle out of the eyes. Then I'm going to draw the top feather and the other feathers next to it. Now, I might decide later to put a leaf on the top of the bird's head. I haven't decided yet how I'm going to do this picture. I'm going to add the wings on the side. And fluffy feathers around the bottom. Legs. And then on the bottom, since it's fall, I'm going to add some leaves, possibly later. I haven't decided yet, but for now, I'm just going to cover up the feet, making a wavy line. I can decide later how I want to design once I get to my marker. Okay, now for the eyes, depending upon what is happening in your photo, you want the eyes to travel in that direction. So maybe you have a leaf that's caught on his shoulder or her shoulder. The bird could be looking over here at the leaf. Or maybe the bird has a leaf that landed on his or her beak. So then the eye is looking at the beak and you would cover it up. So if you're drawing a leaf that landed on the beak, you could go like this. I might not put the stem there. That would be a little confusing. I could put the leaf this way with the stem there, and the bird could be looking at the leaf that landed on his or her beak. You could also have a leaf on the head. So in my picture here, the leaf is up here and the bird's looking. This time I could put the leaf right here, kind of making a football shape. Now to make the leaf, we can do it later with our marker, but I really kept the leaf simple. I didn't put a bunch of points on the leaf like an oak leaf. I just kept a really simple leaf like this because we have a lot of inking to do and a lot of coloring. We want to keep it simple. If you have leaves falling in the sky, you want them kind of in different directions. So you might want to make some falling with the stem this way and some falling with the stem that way. And then you can just add a few on the ground or draw a bunch later on the ground. All right, now we don't need to draw the circles for the snow because we can do that later with our marker. Speaking of marker, I think we're ready for a marker. We are, okay. So we're gonna go in now with our marker and retrace all the lines that we wanna keep. So I'm going to put my pencil aside. I'm going to get out my Sharpie marker. The marker that we're working with has the rounded top. It's our fine tip marker, not the extra fine tip that has a really skinny point. We want this one that's got a rounded top. I like to put the lid on the back of the marker like this when I'm working. And remember, if you hold your pen straight up and down, you're going to get a skinny line. If you hold it on a slight angle, you're going to get a fat line. Now, you see from my drawing, I get a really fat line because I'll go over it 2 or 3 times, not just once, because I like, especially the bird, to really pop on the picture. So I'm going to do now is start to ink my lines in. So this is me going 1 time. and that's fine. And I'm on an angle. My second time around, it's just going to get a little thicker. I don't go more than 2 times around. Try to go the same no matter where I'm coloring. So what I'm going to have you do now is pause the video and retrace over all of your pencil lines, and then meet me back here when you're done tracing everything, and then we'll start to do our coloring. So go ahead and pause the video and then meet me back when you've inked everything in. All right, if you've come back and you've finished inking everything, there's a couple things we need to do and add after we've done all the inking for the outlines, the things that we originally drew. I decided that since I was putting a bathing suit on her, that she needs to be a girl. So I'm going to add some eyelashes. I'm just going to flick my pen a couple times. On my 4 characters. Now the other thing is, I told you earlier we were going to go back and do the snow later with a marker. There's no reason to use a pencil to draw circles. Plus what's going to end up happening is you're going to make those circles too small and they're going to close up. So when we're drawing the snow, we're just going to make a few circles. Not too many, because you have to color in between those when we get to our crayon work in the background. And then up here for the bee, to make it look like a bee, we're going to draw a curved line right down the middle and just thicken that line up once or twice more. That way when we color it yellow, we'll have yellow on the front, black stripe down the middle, and yellow on the back. Don't bother trying to put a face on the bee. It'll just close up. No reason. They're too small right now to do that with. Then let's see what else. Oh, we want to ink in the under portion of each eye. So the lower half of that circle or oval. This is where I'm going to hold my marker straight up and down. That way I have a finer point on my marker. Now, if you're having trouble getting your marker in there, and if your highlight closes up, oh, don't worry about it. It happens to me all the time. What I do is I just go back in and close up all of the eyes so they match in all the pictures. Now, once I'm done here, I'm trying to figure out if there's anything else I forgot in my picture. If you drew a pattern in your swimsuit, make sure to outline that pattern. I did polka dots on my picture here. I kept my scarf really simple, but if you want to take the time and make a pattern scarf, you could go in and draw some stripes going down the scarf if you want to. And then we're going to go in and add a little gesture lines. We need a couple gesture lines. The first place we need gesture lines is up here where our bee and our butterfly are in the picture. So for our bee, we're going to make it look like he is buzzing around. So I'm just going to make some very light dotted lines, or dotted, I guess that's not really a line, little dots. And then I'm going to do the same thing with the butterfly. And then we want some gesture lines on the leaves. So because they're up in the air, we can make a short little double line, like a comma, around those leaves. You can do a single line or a double line, and it'll make those leaves look like they're falling from the sky. Okay, now we're going to go in and get our magical eraser out, and we're going to erase everything inside those marker lines. We're going to get rid of all of your pencil lines. So go ahead and pause the video again and start erasing. Then meet me back here and we'll get ready to color. Okay, so now we've gone in, we've erased all of our pencil lines, and now we can go in with crayons or markers and do our coloring. So I use crayons for mine. I just use regular Crayola crayons. I keep mine in a little cup when I am coloring. That way, each time I'm finished with a color, it goes back in the cup, and it's easy for me to pick up for the next box. So if I were you, what I would recommend doing is color one thing in each picture over and over. So for instance, if I started with my lightest color, I would go in and color my beak first. And then I would go in and color my beak in the next picture, my beak in the next picture, my beak in the next picture. So that would be my first trick. So I don't ever just go in with one color. I like to kind of blend colors. So now I'm going to go in and put a little orange around the edge. And then when I'm done doing all four, I'm going to go in and color a little bit of orange over the whole thing. So in my little crayon box, I have two shades of orange. So I have a little bit lighter orange, and I'm just going to scribble that right over the entire beak like this. Doesn't it remind you of a nacho Dorito chip? Do you know what that is? I try not to eat too many of those. So when I am done coloring beaks, then I move on to something else. So then let's say I would start with the blue bird. So if I'm going to do my bird blue, by the way, you don't have to make your bird blue. You could have a green bird in all four pictures, but you want it to be the same in all pictures. So if you decide to do a brown bird, all four should be a brown bird, because what we're trying to show here is the same bird in all four seasons. So if you decide to do a purple bird, all four birds should be purple. Okay, is there anything else I need to explain before you get to the coloring? Let me see. You can choose whatever color you want for your bee. Oh, for the sky. That was the other thing. I chose to make the sky blue in these two pictures. You don't have to. You could keep the sky white and just add a little hint of blue like this at the bottom of each snowball. This is another way that you could show a snowy day. So I'm just putting a tiny, tiny hint of blue at the bottom, and then a little bit of blue along the top of the snow. And then go ahead and color everything. I just think if you pop the background by making it blue, it makes the white snowballs show up better. And when you're coloring your background, you're going to notice I color really soft. I don't go in really heavy with my crayon. I made my crayon heavier on the actual bird. I used the same exact blue. I just colored very softly, holding my paper flat like this, and just very gently coloring around the snowballs, really careful like this. I did the same thing in the fall sky, only just because it kind of matched. They kind of look nice together on a diagonal like this. So I did a really soft blue sky, and I colored my fall leaves all different colors. You could also just do them all brown if you want to. And let's see, I don't think there's anything else for me to explain. I hope you had fun today drawing our seasonal bluebird, and I had fun teaching you. If you want to send me an email and show me your work, I love when I get emails. And if you do, I promise to write back to you. Just send me a photo of your work to rtorres@lcusd.net. I can't wait to see you for our next lesson, and I hope you have a wonderful day. Bye.